isn't it really fun to get that box of curriculum and you're like, ooh, just all this new stuff, all of the just everything that it holds for you, and just the smell of new books and cracking that binding. I sometimes have a hard time cracking the binding of new books, but it just is a really fun time, and we're doing it with my kids, and I'm at the further end right now. And to be honest, this is, well, maybe close to my second year, or maybe even closer to my third year of not necessarily doing this whole process, but I remember it very clearly.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
It is that time of the year. No, it's not Christmas, but it feels like it to homeschool moms, right? It's that time of the year that most of us begin to think about and plan and make purchases for curriculum and our resources, things we're going to use for the next homeschool year. It's a nice time of the year to do this because your brain is still in homeschool mom mode. You haven't lost some of those brain cells for homeschooling during the summer when you just kind of want to maybe take a little bit of a break from things or from like a formal standpoint of homeschooling. So everything is fresh. You have perspective of this homeschool year, which if you do not, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to episode 352, where we talked about taking the time to evaluate this homeschool year and then using that information. It's just basically data collecting and using that to make some decisions for next homeschool year. So don't miss that step of evaluating the year that you are in right now. But it's fun to be able to look at curriculum and dream of all the possibilities and think about all of the things you guys are going to get to do together next homeschool year. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's just the step-by-step to choosing next year's curriculum. I remember doing this in the spring, probably even closer, maybe sometimes to the winter, to help maybe get me out of like the winter blues and the rut that I was in with homeschooling during the winter and just feeling like it was so long because it's so cold and so dark, and just was, it kind of gave me a little bit of momentum there at that time of the year. But it was just so fun to think about all the possibilities, and just, isn't it really fun to get that box of curriculum and you're like, ooh, just all this new stuff, all of the, just everything that it holds for you, and just the smell of new books and cracking that binding. I sometimes have a hard time cracking the binding of new books, but it just is a really fun time, and we're doing it with my kids, and I'm at the further end right now. And to be honest, this is, well, maybe close to my second year, or maybe even closer to my third year of not necessarily doing this whole process, but I remember it very clearly. So going into now, what I'm thinking about is the next year will be my high schooler's, he'll be his senior year, his 12th grade year. I mean, if you say senior to him, he's like, what? I'm a senior citizen? I'm like, no, that's just what they call it. But I really don't have a curriculum to purchase. We've kind of talked about how we're going to use some of the budget just in a little bit of a different way, and thinking about his next homeschool year. And we only have one actual requirement that he has to finish. So it's going to be a fun homeschool year next year for him. And there's just a lot of things and details to work out, and a lot of conversations to have with him, and a lot of options. And for me to give to him, and for him then to make decisions on, because it's his life. So let's jump into my step-by-step. I think this is really going to help give you some clarity. Get a piece of paper and a pen so you can write these down. Feel free to go ahead and label that with numbers 1 to 7. I've got 7 steps here for you. The first one is to read through your homeschool regulations. Now, you might live in a state where there are none. Congratulations, you can skip and go to step 2. If you are in a state like I am, I've lived in two very highly regulated states out of the top, maybe 5 or so. I've lived in 2 of those. And so where I live now is in New York, highly regulated. And I cannot say enough that it is so important for you to read your homeschool regulations. Even if you have homeschool regulations that are just very simple, might just be a couple of lines. Read through it. Nobody else is legally responsible except for you. The buck starts and stops with you as the parent. And not just you, with your husband as well. But for me, it's just been me. My husband knows that I understand it. I've kind of explained it a little bit to him, but on the paperwork and stuff, it just has my name, and I'm the one that reads through it every single year. So I know I just said we have one more credit, one more requirement in order to do. I will still read it this year just to make sure, because guess what? I learned this the semi-hard way. I didn't get myself into a jam or anything, but I was going through, I don't even remember which child it was in which year, but I was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't remember that. And so if we read it every homeschool year, then we can take a look at what we have done, and then you can kind of plan a little bit ahead. And so I just can't say enough about you need to know what your rights and responsibilities are. Number 2 is to evaluate your vision for your homeschool and for your family. Along with this goes considering your family culture and what is important to you. And so when you evaluate your vision, you can say, are the decisions I'm about to make, are they in line? And as you make these decisions for the curriculum, you can say, is this in line with our vision? Now, the vision can become a bit more clear. You could make it more broad, and that's okay. There is no right or wrong to a vision unless you've never created a vision for your homeschool. If you have not done that, or if you have done one of those and you're just kind of like, it's a little murky, a little unsure, this is what we will do together in your homeschool blueprint, because it really is the foundation. Whether you have only a couple years of homeschooling left, or you have your entire homeschool career ahead of you, or you have 1 child, 10 children, it is important to do. And that is one of the basics of your homeschool blueprint, because all the other decisions are based upon that. And so even now, as we are talking in this episode, these decisions are based upon your vision statement. And if you don't know where you're going, you can't quite get there if you don't have a point that you are focused on. I remember doing some dance classes way back, and my daughter doing it as well. And even now I use this tip when I do reverse, like alternating lunges, is you have a spot. You have to look at a spot. And so with dance, when you're doing, I don't know the exact term. If you have a child that's in dance, you'll be like, I know exact term. But when you go to spin, you have your head focused on one spot. In the last minute, you turn your head and you go right back to that spot. And it keeps you from going off course. It keeps you from, say you're going to do a bunch of these turns, your arms out, and then as you turn, you pull your arms in, and then your arms back out, and you whip your head around, and you have a spot that you're focused on. It could be just like something on the wall, or something on, probably not the floor. It depends on what you're doing. But if you don't have a spot that you're looking at, you're going to end up, say you're in a big gymnasium, you're going to end up who knows where. So with homeschool, if you don't have a spot, if you don't have a direction, if you don't have something that you're looking at, that's your vision, then you're going to end up who knows where. And it doesn't mean that journey isn't going to be good. But when we want to be intentional about our homeschooling and how we spend time, having a vision is really essential. And your homeschool blueprint will help you do that. And you can get more information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. And the link will also be in the show notes for you. Step 3 is to set some goals. We also do this in your homeschool blueprint, but you're free to do it on your own as well. Set some goals for what do you want to accomplish this homeschool year. Again, we don't really know how far our kids are going to get in things sometimes. Sometimes it can be a little bit like, well, I don't know. Is the reading going to click this year? So it's a little hard to make some goals for that. Set some other goals. It could be goals set some goals that have to do with your Bible reading and with the building of the faith of your children. It could be goals of getting through a couple devotionals, or reading through a specific couple of books of the Bible, or going through a certain curriculum or resource. Don't neglect that. I don't want to say option. Don't neglect that. I think it's necessary. I think that if you want to disciple your children fully during these years, you have to spend time, and it needs to be a priority. If you put it on the back burner and they know all their science facts and geography and math, and they can read Latin and maybe speak Latin, I don't know. Then, and they don't have a foundation for their faith, they have not come to a faith of their own, then the rest of that is worthless, really. In the grand scheme of things, if you are trying to raise your children with a biblical worldview. So back to the goals. Setting some goals. Goals are fun. They aren't meant to be something like, oh no, we didn't get there. But it's something to look forward to, and you can break those goals down to smaller steps. And it can be even goals of say you have a child going into the high school years. I know that it's just been just so great. I love the high school years because you can have such conversations and you can introduce them to topics, and you can just like the dialogue and just all the things. I have learned so much during all of my kids' high school years. And so if you're going into the high school, you'd be like, you know what? I want to expose them to these different ideas and these thoughts, and let's have conversations. And I want them to maybe attend a specific camp or whatever it is. I want them to get a job. I want them to be able to try out these different things. And so just setting some goals, you can do your goals of during elementary years. This is some goals. Here's middle school, here's high school. And once you do that, you can break it down into certain years. So look at the goals that you have accomplished this year. Maybe you want to build upon those goals, or maybe you didn't reach some of those. That's okay. You can go ahead and roll them into next year. Step 4 is to evaluate your homeschool style. We spoke extensively and in detail about this in episode 120, and I walk you through this process of discovering your homeschool style or styles in your homeschool blueprint as well. But evaluate the homeschool styles and figure out which one do I seem to be gravitating towards. Is it classical? Is it traditional? Is it maybe unit studies, unschooling, Charlotte Mason? Is it Montessori? There can be a combination of different ones. It doesn't have to be one specific style, but just knowing what are you gravitating towards? What is aligned with your vision and your family culture? It will make the next decisions so much easier. Because if you are saying, I want to do more classical, well, then you're probably not going to choose ones that are in a different style. You're going to maybe it really narrows it down. That's what it comes down to. Narrows your choices down. And you can do some research and find some different resources that have to go along specifically with classical style, or specifically with Charlotte Mason, or specifically with unit studies, or specifically with Montessori. And this is also included in your homeschool blueprint, where I have specific links and specific resources to go and look at that will align with the styles that you are leaning towards, the ones that are going to work best for your family. Okay, so now you've evaluated your style. You can also go ahead and listen to episode 120. I will link that in the show notes. Number 5 is to look at what you already have. Do not ignore the curriculum that you have already purchased, that you either have not gotten all the way through, or that you have not even touched or opened at all, or possibly you tried doing it a couple years ago and it just didn't work. So look at that. Pull out those boxes, those bins, pull them off the shelf, and take a look at what you already have. So I mentioned maybe some of those you didn't get through all the way this homeschool year. You can roll it into next homeschool year. Nobody says you can't do that. You can go ahead and do it. You might say, we just need 2 more months to do this. Well, you have September and October. You can do it and then be done with it for the holidays. You can also take a look at curriculum that you might have tried that just didn't go well. Your kids might have been too young, but you're like, this seems like it's good. Let me hold on to it for a few years. This might be the year to go ahead and begin doing that again. So take a look at it. Now that you have done homeschooling, this might have been your first, second year. Say it's your second year of homeschooling. And you had some of the first year, and you're like, I can't do this. You might look now and say, you know what? I think I can do this. It's not so hard. I've got this thing kind of figured out. If we have a routine, and it'll be easier to do right now. And then maybe there's just some curriculum you just haven't gotten to. Take a look and see if those are options. Using what you already have will really save the budget, so that you can use maybe your homeschool budget in different ways and for some different things. But look at what you already have. And if there are things that you have been holding on to, maybe you're a mom who has been homeschooling for a while, and you've been holding on to some of this curriculum for years and years and years and years, and your style is completely different, go ahead, move on from that curriculum. Go ahead and give it to a friend. Maybe it'll be an answer to prayer for that friend. Go ahead and donate it somewhere, find a used curriculum sell it online, or sometimes I've just donated it to a thrift store. I'm like, we'll see who finds this, and maybe it'll bless them. But don't feel like you have to hold on to things that are just not serving you well and not going to serve you in the future. Step number 6 is to talk to your friends and do some research about curriculum. But I highly recommend giving yourself a time limit. I'm not just saying a time limit of how long per day. I'm saying a time limit in days, because you homeschool and you have kids at home. Most likely you can't sit there and research for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. But you're probably researching for 10, 15 minutes here. Maybe during nap you spend an hour. That's okay. You can figure out how much time you have each day, and just knowing that you might say, oh, I'm spending so much time researching every single day, and that time might be a total of an hour in a day. But it's just for a short season right now. You're going to figure out your curriculum and you're going to move on from that research. But set a time limit of saying, you know what, by this certain day, I would say. So from the time that this comes out, you might listen to today's episode and say, you know what, I'm going to give myself 1 week, because you've already been thinking about all this and you just need to make some final decisions. Or maybe you're listening to this episode and saying, I have done zero research, zero thinking about it. You might say, you know what, I would like to give myself 3 to 4 weeks. That's perfectly reasonable as well. So set yourself a timeline of what the deadline is you have to decide. So researching on your own, talk to your friends, but just know everybody has their own opinion, and their own opinion is fine. But listen to their opinion and then take what's going to work for you and not take what's not going to work for you. Maybe you go onto YouTube and, let's say, Montessori, and you research Montessori, and you find a YouTube channel and it's a mom and she's talking all about Montessori and what she does, and you might say, oh, well, I like that part of what she does, but I don't really like that part of what she does. Or it could be Charlotte Mason. You find a YouTube or a podcast or something just about that, and they talk about, say they're talking about specific curriculum and saying, I really like this because of this, or this didn't work for us because of this. So say science. This didn't work for us because there were so many experiments and I don't like experiments. You might listen to that and say, I love experiments. Or it might be my kids would love experiments. So therefore, maybe that curriculum might be a good choice for you. But talk to your friends as well, because you know them better than you would somebody who's on YouTube and somebody who's maybe has a blog and is just talking about it. But talk to them. It'll give you some ideas. It gives you a starting point. And step number 5 is to make those final decisions. Get that curriculum, order it, and then stop shopping. Go ahead and close out all those tabs on your phone. Receive the curriculum in the mail, get all excited about it, put it aside for next homeschool year, and stop thinking about it. You don't know if it's going to work until you actually start doing it, and the plan is not to start doing it until the end of the summer or the fall, and therefore, you've done your due diligence, and now put it aside, and let's just step into summer and enjoy ourselves. If these steps are things you want to dive into a bit deeper, you need some guidance with that, that's what your homeschool blueprint will help you do. It's not just for picking out curriculum. That is a large part of it, and helping you to figure out the direction of your homeschool is actually the larger part of what it is. You can get more information at littlebylittleHomeschool.com/blueprint, and that will tell you all about your homeschool blueprint. Would love to have you over there. But in the meantime, have fun thinking about and planning for next homeschool year.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes, and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.